So today's content is a unique and I think a specialty topic in that the question is, when a teacher of God encounters another person who believes in magic and it has a strong investment in magical thinking, how does the teacher of God deal with that? And so, and first of all, why is this even and I'm going to go over what magic is in some detail so that we'll review that, because otherwise the idea doesn't make any sense. But there's an inclination, perhaps a teacher of God might be critical of someone else for having magical thoughts and might view them as entrenched in error. And but that doesn't sound right, to be critical of somebody because they've made an error. So we're gonna look at that whole phenomena. David, are you available for reading?
I am.
Great. So glad to see you up and around and your smiling face. So we'll go over magical thoughts in detail in just a moment, but I thought we'd start off with the introduction to this section. When you're ready, David.
How do God's teachers deal with magic thoughts? This is a crucial question, both for teacher and pupil. If this issue is mishandled, the teacher of God has hurt himself and has also attacked his pupil. This strengthens fear and makes the magic seem quite real to both of them. How to deal with magic thus becomes a major lesson for the teacher of God to master. His first responsibility in this is not to attack it. If a magic thought arouses anger in any form, God's teacher can be sure that he is strengthening his own belief in sin and has condemned himself. He can be sure as well that he has asked for depression, pain, fear, and disaster to come to him. Let him remember then, it is not this that he would teach, because it is not this that he would learn.
Mm-hmm. So a couple things that emphasize the importance. It says this is a crucial question, and that also his first responsibility is not to attack. There's one more where it says, okay, so this is a crucial question. Oh, becomes a major lesson for the teacher of God to master. So we're emphasizing crucialness here. And there is, from an ego point of view, a tendency to attack, which would be to see another person as mistaken and as wrong. That thought might occur to one. And so, and if he does so, then he strengthens fear and makes the belief in magic in the other person seem real to both of them. So it's one mistake being added to another mistake equals a double mistake. So before we go any further, we need to do a review of what the meaning of magic thoughts within A Course in Miracles. So I prepared a summary there. And you should know that anyone who loses sight of their union with God then winds up believing in a different view of reality, winds up believing in illusions, and trusting in magical powers instead of trusting in the divine power of God. So all of us have believed in magical thoughts before. Whenever we separate, we believe in magical thoughts. So a person that believes in magical thoughts believes that matter and the body have power and creative ability. This is the center of the ego's thought system. They believe that physical reality is where is the foundation of what's real. Whereas a person who has corrected that belief realizes that creative power comes from the source and only from the source. A person that believes in magic believes that a healer, someone special, has a unique gift to bring healing. Whereas the correction to that is that everyone has the ability to heal by changing their mind. No one can remove the power from your mind of choosing to heal. Believing in magic also is a belief where one relies on your little self alone as the source of guidance and activity, whereas the correction of that relies on true assistance. Also, belief in magic is centered on the physical world and views the body and all the concept of body images as central. And this fosters a sense of separation and sacrifice from source. Whereas we learn in the Course, I am not a body, I am free, I am as God created me, my mind is a part of God. So essentially all this is, where do you place your trust? Do you place it in, because you will always place your trust somewhere. Do you place it in the belief in magical powers? Or do you trust in God? And and more can be said of that, but that gives you enough to feel a sense for this radical distinction between trusting in magical powers versus the power of God. Susie, you had your hand up.
Yeah, there's a part of, I'm sorry, I'm sick. There's a part of the text that talks about medicine being magic. So can you make that distinction? Because we didn't cover that here. And I remember us talking about, I don't know, a year ago or whatever it was, how until we believe that the Holy Spirit can help in any situation, let's call it a sleep aid, we are not believing in the Holy Spirit's power. Or, I don't really mean to say that. I'm just trying to bring up an example because I know we spoke about this.
Right.
So can you make a little distinction? Or are we not talking about that at all?
Well, it's easily confused, for sure.
Okay.
And it's a big topic. So let me just extemporaneously do a short review. From the Holy Spirit's perspective, sickness is of the mind. It's a mind that's trying to get away from God and get away from love and embrace fear and the ego. It's a sick mind. That's where sickness is. And to take, quote, medicine, whether it be herbal medicine, magic potions, pharmaceuticals, or any other procedure to try to change your mind is a belief in magic. You have the power to change your mind, but external substances do not change your mind about the separation from God. So magical powers more generally have to do with anything from the physical world that one tries to use to correct inner mental conflict. And an example of that is how many people say, you know, I really need a drink now. I've had a hard day. I need a drink. That's a belief in a magical power that somehow my mental state is going to improve with this substance. And I'm not picking on that substance, because we know that there are many other ways in which people attempt to alter their mood with substances. So medicine, Susie, can be viewed very broadly as any type of form in the physical realm that one uses to try to fix what is really an inner spiritual sickness. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, because level confusion is the basis of all confusion and conflict, this topic engenders great confusion, not only even in students of Course in Miracles.
I do remember, Jonica, you saying that until, I don't know what I'll call myself, a course student is ready to believe that the Holy Spirit can provide the answers and not that drink or whatever, just to use an example, that the Holy Spirit meets us where we're at.
Yes.
You know, right.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So there are some exceptions. There's a bigger topic here. Some people might benefit from some intermediate thing because they're not ready to deal with the Holy Spirit directly. And so, yes, that is true. The source of the correction, the healing, is not in the substance. It's in the belief that the person gives to the substance. It's still in their faith.
Yes. Got it.
So this is a much bigger topic. We're just skimming over some of the highlights right now. And Heather had her hand up for a comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we don't have level confusion going on here too, because it's not saying that you shouldn't take your blood pressure medicine.
Right.
You know, that's not what this is saying. This is saying, you know, we need to take care of the body and do what we need to do with that. But it's the magical idea that we have to separate from that, and that they're two separate things. They're two separate issues. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
Can I, Jonathan,
Here's another way. Here, let me restate another way. If your soul is feeling separate from God, there's nothing that you can take on the physical domain that is going to heal that sickness. You must deal at the level of soul. Yeah.
the way you helped me the most was when you said that there is biology, which is what Heather's talking about. There is biology, which says I have COVID now, so I'm going to take my COVID medicine.
Yeah,
You know,
of
and
course.
then there's my soul sickness. So that's really the distinction. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. That simplifies it. Okay, so we're going to get, this again, level confusion makes this well misunderstood by a lot of people. What happens when a teacher of God encounters this confusion in others? What is to be their, how can they be of most help? David?
There is, however, a temptation to respond to magic in a way that reinforces it. Nor is this always obvious. It can, in fact, be easily concealed beneath a wish to help. It is this double wish that makes the help of little value and must lead to undesired outcomes. Nor should it be forgotten that the outcome that results will always come to teacher and to pupil alike. How many times has it been emphasized that you give but to yourself? And where could this be better shown than in the kinds of help the teacher of God gives to those who need his aid? Here is his gift most clearly given him, for he will give only what he has chosen for himself. And in this gift is his judgment upon the Holy Son of God.
Mhm. Yeah, so we're starting to scrape away some of the confusion and the focus that on the lowest level, the focus might be on what does the other person believe or what did they say. But that's a very superficial level of what do they say and what they believe. What the teacher of God needs to remember is what is my purpose? Who am I? Who are we? And what joins us together, so that he can reinforce the truth, not some statements about magic or medicine or beliefs, so that he doesn't get confused and in the desire to be a wish to help is not in reality reinforcing the belief in error. The focus needs to be on reinforcing the truth of our identity, of our union with all things, not in some transient error that may emerge from one's statements or one's action. So in this sense, the teacher of God, as it says here, is really giving only what he's chosen for himself. If he believes he's deeply mistaken about many things, then he will see that in other people. If he believes that we are all united in the atonement of God, then he will give and convey that as a gift upon the other person. Richie, had your hand up?
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
I'm maybe out of sync with you guys, but I usually will not help someone unless they ask me for help, and I tell them what I do. I don't try to change anyone through my through my ego, I would probably say. And I don't know if I'm in line with you guys. I got here a little late, but I'm not sure. I have a difficult time sometimes, even with the group, when I say something and someone else tries to correct me, as opposed to the leader. Now that may not be right, but it seems like I can't seem to get the help that I want unless I get someone who has the experience and can kind of synchronize into what I have to say, what I've already said.
Right. Yeah, that's well said, Richie. Someone that can synchronize with you, that's the role of the teacher of God, is to join with you. We used to call it in other traditions, a state of a shared heart. We are one in heart, and now we can talk from that point of view. Whereas in the ego, which starts from a point of separation and one person's right and the other person's wrong. So that's the topic here, is helping to clarify how do we, if we're going to be helpful to other people, how do we get to that state where our shared heart is never forgotten, and we realize that what we're really doing is we're stating what we believe to be true ourselves.
Yeah, yes. Real quick, I've been reading in the book, and it's helped me immensely. And it's very threatening. It's like throwing the crutches away.
Yeah.
But it's true. I'm here to get rid or to confront my shadow self.
Right.
And I'm not going to find I'm not going to get any better unless that goes away. And so that's where I'm coming from.
Good.
This is the last house on the block, and I wouldn't want to say to someone something that I wouldn't do myself,
Right.
and shatter their journey. It's not my thing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go on. David?
Perhaps it will be helpful to remember that
sorry. Did I think, yeah, David, I think we're on paragraph 3 here. My
okay,
mistake.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
It is easiest to let error be corrected where it is most apparent, and errors can be recognized by their results. A lesson truly taught can lead to nothing but release for teacher and pupil who have shared in one intent. Attack can enter only if perception of separate goals has entered. And this must indeed have been the case if the result is anything but joy. The single aim of the teacher turns the divided goal of the pupil into one direction, with the call for help becoming his one appeal. This then is easily responded to with just one answer, and this answer will enter the teacher's mind unfailingly. From there, it shines into his pupil's mind, making it one with his.
So the whole premise is here is, how do you take a situation where two people appear to disagree? One thinks the other person is mistaken. How can we, and that would be the ego's point of view, how can that be transformed into a situation that is truly helpful to everyone involved? And it has to do with two things. One, undoing the false perception that would be inclined to judge another as wrong. That has to be undone. That has to be let go of. As long as anyone is holding a hierarchy, I'm up here and they're down here, as long as that sense of right and wrong exists, then judgment has entered, and that's in a form of attack. That has to be undone. But that alone is not enough to bring healing. That restores one to a neutral state where you're not in judgment of the person. How do we heal, though? It's spoken about right here. The single aim of the teacher turns the divided goal of the pupil into one direction, with the call of help becoming his one appeal. This is easy then responded to with just one answer. And with one answer, and here's where we don't rely on magic for us to come up with fancy words, but instead the teacher of God turns to spirit for an answer, so that source becomes the center of the healing. And it says, and the answer will enter the teacher's mind unfailingly, for it shines there also into the pupil's mind, making it one with his. So this is not medicine as we think of it in conventional terms, where you take something to heal the conflicts within your soul. This is a trust in the Holy Spirit, and the teacher of God has to be willing to accept that for themselves and on behalf of the pupil as well. So I call it a shared heart. It's an embracing of the other as part of the sonship, where there's no hierarchy, no judgment, no separation. And then the answer unfailingly appears in that loving and nurturing environment. Heather? You're muted. You're muted, Heather.
I love the promise in that statement that it will enter the teacher's mind unfailingly. It's like we can start to have confidence that when those answers come, that they are the helpful answer, because we can't even make them up. We can't make them up ourselves, so that we can start to learn to trust those answers, and that if it's truly helpful, we can speak those answers. So I'm learning that too. I'm learning how to decipher that.
Yeah, and just to be really transparent here, I know, so I did not come from a counseling background. That's not my, years and years of experience. And when I found myself being more in that role, there was always a part of me in the midst of private counseling with someone that would be not confident and thinking that I need to trust in my own wisdom and my own learning, that would be kind of saying, oh, what am I going to say? What should I say here? What's the right words? That I was aware of that impulse in the background. And I was also aware that I couldn't trust in that as my source, that I had. And so it requires a type of vigilance in those moments to continue to listen to Holy Spirit's direction.
Thank you, honey. Oh, thank you, my love.
Joy, you had a comment?
Yeah, I have a question, or I'm not really sure, but I'm just going to talk about something that I've been experiencing lately, and that is I'm doing the lessons every day. I'm reading the course. I'm attending groups, and my fearful ego mind is really not happy about any of this. Yet I truly believe that this is my true path, and I want to live a peaceful life and feel my connection with Source constantly. So I find myself with this anxiety every single day, and it's all day long. And I'm doing my lessons. I'm never upset for the reason I think, and repeating the lessons and doing all of this, but this anxiety just hangs on. And finally, I get to a place where I say, I can't stand it anymore. My chest is so tight, and I'm going to have to just take some magic because it's just so uncomfortable. So I don't know. I think I might just be sharing that to find out that it's okay and it's going to get better, which I know that it is. I'm brand new back in the course, and I'm only on lesson 7. But that's just what I've been experiencing. So if anyone has anything, I'm open to anything helpful. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Joy. I'll let anyone comment. David?
Yeah, thank you. 2 things. First of all, I will comment briefly on what was just said. And in the lesson, it says old ideas are very difficult to change. And that's it. That's because the first half of the lessons are all about undoing what our perceptions have been and what we have thought routinely, and on the belief in magic over the course of our existence, and the belief in separation and all of those things. So it's not unusual to experience what we just heard. Secondly, I wanted to talk about how this particular paragraph here dovetails on what Richie brought up, in which he said one of his concerns was he doesn't necessarily reach out to people unless they ask for help.
Mhm.
And here it is right here. It says the single aim of the teacher turns the divided goal in one direction with the call for help becoming his one appeal. And then it says the answer will enter the teacher's mind unfailingly. And it brought to my mind, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? Who would you have me say? What would you have me say and to whom? And when I ask that of the Holy Spirit, then the right words will come unfailingly. And, just as much as the call for help has to come from the student to the teacher, the call for help has to come from the teacher to the Holy Spirit.
Mhm. Very
Not that
good.
I'm preaching, that's just my experience,
Yeah, no, that's helpful. Thank you.
limited as it is.
Mhm. Helpful. Heidi?
Thanks for sharing that, Joy. That took a lot of courage. And the good news is that you're not alone. I can tell you, speaking for myself, I have experienced the same thing. And what I do that helps is first I realize that it's my ego that's trying to cause the anxiety. And what I do is I go to the Holy Spirit and I ask the Holy Spirit to quiet my ego and to heal my mind. And whenever I'm experiencing that feeling, it's been a long time since I have, but I kept practicing by just asking the Holy Spirit to heal over and over again. But like I said, you're not alone. It's not unique. I've experienced it. I'm sure there's many other people in this group that have, and you're going in the right direction. And I just want to acknowledge you for your courage to share that. Thank you.
That's beautiful. Thank you for those words, Heidi. Susie?
I just felt compelled to tell, I'll make it quick. And I too want to say that to Joy, that illusions they have the same effects for us as the truth. As long, like whatever we believe to be true is true. So it took me a while in the beginning to even understand this stuff. And I think all of us could probably attest to that, Joy. Really, I really do. So we can, and I think the kind of what Richie said is when we can identify with somebody, it's so much stronger. And I think I can completely identify with what you're saying. So, and still to this day. Anyway, my kids were here over Christmas and there was a little bit of an event that one might consider in this world, negative. And I kept saying to myself, I don't know what anything is for. I don't know what anything is for. I don't know what anything is for. I'm not going to look at this as like how my ego would want me to look at it. Oh my God, this one was wrong. That one was wrong. A whole big blow up, whatever. And she has a set of twin boys. They're 6 years old. They're not her biological children. And she's also in the middle of getting divorced. I'm only telling you this because there's a lot of stuff for her in this world. And there's been some issues between me and the children and my daughter, and their judgments, whatever. Anyway, this incident happened and we walked by each other like a day later, and I had been praying and I just grabbed my daughter and I hugged her and we sat down and we just had this open, honest conversation. And honest to God, my story was just my story. Her story was just her story. We came together, and I'm telling you, like I always say, I had all this, there was so much cry for love going on. I had this release of all the stories that I had told myself, and there was only love there. And that's the truth. And it was pretty profound. Like, this works, And now, and the boys who had a hard time with me a little bit were 100% fine. And it has to be that my energy changed and that I only had love in my heart for them. And that's the truth. And only love is real, right? And what is unreal does not exist. So it was just an amazing moment. And it's only because of the lessons. I just have to say it over and over and over again. How can I look at this differently? And I could see peace instead of this. And if I didn't do them over and over again, Joy, over and over again, I wouldn't get it the first time around. I didn't get it the first time around. So all of those lessons are real and they work depending on my willingness. So I don't know. It's just pretty amazing. Poof, all that bullshit, sorry, is just gone. So I think that's the aim of the course, to help me change my thinking. And I just really wanted to share that.
All right. Thank you all for that sharing. Joy, thank you for your sincerity and transparency in your share. We'll go on.
Perhaps it will be helpful to remember that no one can be angry at a fact. It is always an interpretation that gives rise to negative emotions, regardless of their seeming justification by what appears as facts. Regardless, too, of the intensity of the anger that is aroused. It may be merely slight irritation, perhaps too mild to be even clearly recognized, or it may also take the form of intense rage, accompanied by thoughts of violence, fantasized or apparently acted out. It does not matter. All of these reactions are the same. They obscure the truth, and this can never be a matter of degree. Either truth is apparent or it is not. It cannot be partially recognized. Who is unaware of truth must look upon illusions.
Mm-hmm. So this really is the basis for the entire framework within the course, is that in our confusion, we're not looking at facts. We're not looking at reality as the Holy Spirit sees it. We're looking at always an interpretation that gives rise to negative emotions. Even in lesson 7 today, it's past learning that we've dragged along from our past into the present. We're using that past learning to interpret what's happening now. That's the fundamental error. That's why it's embedded in these first 20 lessons, is to invite us to withdraw our trust in past learning, past interpretations. And as a result of depending on past learning, we wind up assigning interpretations, meanings to the situations we find ourselves in, which are really not facts, but again, they're interpretations. And those things cause us to find a world of fear. And the response that we have from that is to defend ourselves from that fear and to attack the thing that we perceive is the cause of our fear. And so this can occur over the full range of emotions, as it says here. It may be merely a slight irritation, perhaps too mild to even be clearly recognized. It's still an interpretation that something's not right out there. It's an annoyance, and it's very easy to let those things go and dismiss them as trivial, or on the other extreme, it could take a form of intense rage. But that entire basis of interpreting in fear is still the same mistake. All of these reactions are the same. They're still rooted in reliance on self to be the judge and interpreter of this world. That is a form of separation from Holy Spirit. So this course is entirely, it's called a bottoms-up spirituality. Remove that past over-reliance on self-interpretations, self-judgments. Remove that error. Richie called it the shadow work. Remove that error. And when all error is gone, there is no obstacle between you and the truth. It's that simple. Remove the errors and you will see clearly. As it says here, truth is either apparent or not. It can't be partially recognized because until it's gone, we're still foggy and confused. And if we're unaware of the truth, then the only alternative is to look upon the illusions which are in the form of our own self-reliant judgments, self-interpretations. Richie?
Yeah, hi, I have just one story based on what we're talking about, germane to and I still haven't gotten any closure. I think I have, but my ego says, well, you didn't do enough. I was involved in a Course in Miracles class. And this took about 15 years ago. And there was one individual who would drop out of the class, move away, come back, move away, come back. And I could never establish a rapport with that person. And what had happened was the person changed his name, come up with a different name at the course. And I used to do that, not in the course, but when I was a kid. And what happened was he changed his name to Bodhi, like Bodhisattva. And he was, in other words, I interpreted it as self-anointed. And that's the last thing in the world that I want to do. And I would say to him, hey, how you doing? Oh, yeah. And he would never really speak to me. And I would kind of put myself there to say something to him, to be available. Well, I was really uncomfortable when he changed his name. And what he ended up doing was killing himself. Now, I was there to offer. He wasn't there to receive. I tried to initiate, not saying that he needed help. That's not my job. But if he wanted help, I made myself available. And I don't know the other word. I didn't ingratiate myself. And it strikes me as I can't do something for someone unsolicited. It's hard. And the working through a barrier where I've been inculcated with this since I was a child, and then conditioned as a teenager and an adult to undo all of this. And that's why I'm here now. So I don't know what you're going to get out of that. I don't think this is a rebuttal. It's just that I can only tell people what I do or my experience.
Right.
And try to get in their way without letting them know that I'm available. But, I still got to stand on the sidelines. It's a dangerous place for me. And please, if coming from you, Jonica. If I'm wrong and this can be corrected, I'm all in, man.
Well, you're not wrong, Richie. What words that the Course would say is about hearing the voice of the Holy Spirit in those moments.
Mhm.
This is where the spiritual transformation comes in, where we move beyond any words you or I could fabricate ourselves and tap into a source, a divine mind, which is a shared mind. We're not into separate minds there, with a shared mind, and have that be the initiator of the thoughts that we share with others. And that's a tall order. That requires becoming quiet within. So it requires a deep listening in your interior world to a voice that we would say is not even human. So that's where we aspire to. The teacher of God aspires to share a message that is not his own, but that comes from a voice that is quiet within and gentle and sees all things.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go on to next paragraph, David.
Anger in response to perceived magic thoughts is a basic cause of fear. Consider what this reaction means, and its centrality in the world's thought system becomes apparent. A magic thought, by its mere presence, acknowledges a separation from God. It states in the clearest form possible that the mind which believes it has a separate will that can oppose the will of God also believes it can succeed. That this can hardly be a fact is obvious, yet that it can be believed as fact is equally obvious. And herein lies the birthplace of guilt. Who usurps the place of God and takes it for himself now has a deadly enemy, and he must stand alone in his protection and make himself a shield to keep him safe from fury that can never be abated and vengeance that can never be satisfied.
There's an image, I didn't bring it in the slide deck here, but it comes from the movie The Ten Commandments. And in that movie, they're at the foot of the mountain, and Moses goes up into the mountain to be with God, and he's gone for several days. And during that time, the people get all nervous, and they decide that it's time to go back to worshiping the calf. And they build their idol of the calf, and they have a big, celebration. And Moses comes down from the mountain, and the guy who led the idol worship party says, "We have our own gods now. We have our own gods now." And that's the essence of belief in magic, is that we have powers here on earth that we can rely on and use, and they become our idols, that we become attached to them. They form the basis of our trust and our thought system, is our own magical powers, independent of the creator. And so this is the birthplace of guilt. It's usurping the place of God and taking for oneself a sense of independence and autonomy separate from the state of union with God. All that leads ultimately to a despair and a tragic outcome of having nothing better to believe in than oneself. So that's the essence of magic, is reliance on one's own powers that they have found here in the world, and it usurps the position that God is the creator is intended to have in our life. It says, and then in that confused state, he must stand alone in his protection and make himself a shield to keep himself safe from God's fury. So it's a terribly confused state. Now, I know a belief in magic doesn't seem on the surface to appear to lead to all that, but it's part of a complete thought system. And sooner or later, you will travel from one end of the thought system to the other and find yourself in much deeper than you ever would have imagined. This next paragraph I've highlighted in a different color because it's all the way the ego views the situation. It's stated as if it's a firm belief. It's the firm belief of the ego. David?
How can this unfair battle be resolved? Its ending is inevitable, for its outcome must be death. How then can one believe in one's defenses? Magic again must help. Forget the battle, accept it as a fact, and then forget it. Do not remember the impossible odds against you. Do not remember the immensity of the enemy, and do not think about your frailty in comparison. Accept your separation, but do not remember how it came about. Believe that you have won it, but do not retain the slightest memory of who your great opponent really is. Projecting your forgetting onto him, it seems to you he has forgotten too.
This is the ego's point of view. And it continues on.
Into this hopeless situation, God sends his teachers. They bring the light of hope from God himself.
I'm sorry, I did it again, David. It's not you, it's me. I'm somehow double clicking on the paragraphs here. All right, we've corrected my error again.
But what will now be your reaction to all magic thoughts? They can but reawaken sleeping guilt, which you have hidden, but have not let go. Each one says clearly to your frightened mind, you have usurped the place of God. Think not he has forgotten. Here we have the fear of God most starkly represented. For in that thought has guilt already raised madness to the throne of God himself. And now there is no hope except to kill. Here is salvation now. An angry father pursues his guilty son. Kill or be killed, for here alone is choice. Beyond this there is none, for what was done cannot be done without. The stain of blood can never be removed, and anyone who bears this stain on him must meet with death.
So you might ask, why would they, in the Course of Miracles, communicate this sick, confused message? Why include that here? Why not just not mention any of that and focus on the light and the healing? And you need to ask yourself that question. Let's trust for a moment that there's a reason, and it's a thoughtful reason, and it's for your own good. It has your own healing in mind. It's not just to mouth a bunch of words, but so that you would hear more clearly what the ego is saying. Kill or be killed. This is the only choice you've got. So the point being is that you have to ultimately make choices for yourself of which voice you will listen to. And most of us had no idea we were listening to the ego's voice. And so we have to amplify it. We have to turn up the intensity of what it's saying so that if you didn't recognize it, now you will. And now you can see its colors. You can feel its emotional intensity. You can detect that while sometimes it may be dressed in prettier colors, it still is a monstrous entity, no matter how it's clothed. And that should make your choosing obvious then. Couple comments. Kim, thanks for your patience.
No problem. I wanted to share a couple things that have helped me with all of this. And the first thing is, everything is always for me. That's the first thing that I wanted to share. The second thing is, I don't need to understand it or figure it out, because I can easily get tripped up if I go there. And thirdly is to accept the atonement and understand that I don't need to fix anything. And then lastly, and this is hard, to be grateful even if it feels horrible. And so I just wanted to share those 4 things because this is really meaningful for me today. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Heidi?
Thanks for sharing that, Kim. I'm actually experiencing all of those right now. What I make up this is trying to let us see is that obviously one day we're all going to be gone. And I believe that I was told that I have stage 4 cancer and that I probably won't make it after the end of the year. So I have a choice on how I want to go. Do I want to go happy, joyous, and free? Or do I want to go with the ego and be depressed and have a miserable end of my life? So I make up this is letting us know that one day our time is going to be up. How do we want to live the rest of our life? And how do we want to show up in this world? And I believe that we all have a purpose. Some people are animal lovers, other people are teachers, or whatever our purpose is. I believe that my purpose is to be able to share love, light, and positive energy with other people that are sick and dying. And that's just how I'm looking at this. So I make up, this is why we're being taught this paragraph. And that's how I'm choosing to live it. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you for your strength and your spirit. Susie?
I just wanted to echo what Kim said. That has really been, I would say, the foundation for me, is that I do not know what anything is for, period. All I know is that I don't know. So anything at all that happens in my life, that in my past and my story, I would perceive negative, I just don't anymore. I stop and I think. The ego speaks first, so I might, have a knee-jerk reaction, but then I get quiet and I say, I don't know what anything is for. I don't know what anything is for. And when that fight happened, I don't know what anything is for. And, I'll just end with this. I remember so much in the course, us talking about whoever is saner at the time. And I prayed to the Holy Spirit, and I was seeing her at the time. And my daughter had this whole hierarchy going on, and I can't judge her for that. I was able to put all of that aside, who's seeing her at the time, and have a wonderful ending to lots of illusions. But I don't know what anything is for. You know, even when I get sick, all right, I don't know. I don't know what anything is for. And it's really helped me so much. Get rid of so much negativity. That's it.
Thank you. Cheryl?
Thank you, Jonica. Heidi, I just want to say thank you so much for your strength in sharing what you shared. And in being a testament to living what you've been told to be the last part of your life, bringing joy instead of being angry. I don't know that I'd be able to do that. So that's just a lot of strength of spirit, and I applaud you for that. Secondly, I haven't been sharing that much. I've been listening the last few weeks. I know Jonica notices. And, you know, sometimes we just need, regardless of our journeys and, you know, how much we've evolved or not evolved, you know, sometimes for me, I just learn to listen. But I've been living, my ego has been in charge recently, and it's been in charge with my expectations. And when my expectations are in charge, inevitably, I'm disappointed. And, you know, I know better. But I, you know, I can blame it on the environment I put myself in. And, you know, I live or have been partaking in a world where it's easy to be jealous and envious and, you know, want what others have, or they want what you have. So it's just been, you know, I've gone from those expectations to disappointment to being sad. And now I'm freaking angry, you know, and, you know, anger for me, I mean, I'm sober over 29 years. So I don't use outside substances, but like anger for me is toxic. I hate when I'm angry. And I've also been thinking, and it's okay to think this because for one day at a time, I haven't. It's like, if I had a drink, that magic, then I wouldn't care about anything. And I can just do things that I know are not going to bring me peace and joy, but they're going to bring me a lot of goodies. If I can just have that drink, like a lot of other people I'm around, you know, then I can do this. And it just, even that thought, it's so uncomfortable. It's horrible, you know? So I'm just glad to be here today. I'll come back. I'll move away from where I am now. I always do. I have faith in my higher power, you know, but it's, I'm battling right now. I'm in a battle. My ego is strong and I'm pissed. Thank you.
Thank you for your honesty, Cheryl. Heather?
Yeah, the shares have been so sweet today. So honest. I just appreciate that. And I just do want to really give a hats off to Heidi, because as she was speaking, it just came so clear to me that this is exactly what the lesson is when it says, in defenselessness, my safety lies. It's like, as she was speaking, I just saw this is what it looks like. This is what defenselessness looks like, and it's her safety as she's going through this experience of her life. We get to go through this with her, and she gets to show us what it looks like, because I have to do this too. And so in her defenselessness and sharing her experience, was just precious to me. And so I just wanted to thank you for that, Heidi.
Yeah, no, it's really good catch, Heather, about the defenses there. We're going to be covering a lot more about defenses in chapter 2 of the textbook of probably February and March. It's amazing how much we have structured in this world as psychological defense mechanisms to keep ourselves separate and apart from source. And it runs so deep that we're generally not aware of those things, but there's an enormous superstructure that seems normal, but is actually all intended to keep us defended from what we think is our best interest.
Janica,
Go ahead, Jerry.
today has been incredible. I had some issue with with my son. I mentioned this several months ago, and he came by yesterday after being incommunicado for 6 months, and we didn't discuss anything around why he was incommunicado, but listening to all of this today, and particularly this last part, this last paragraph that we just went over, one that starts, but will now be your reaction to all magic thoughts. It's like, holy mackerel. This looked like somebody led me here today. And I think I know who it was. And I also want to say, before I say goodbye, is to say goodbye. I'm going to be gone for 5 weeks. I mentioned that to you several weeks ago. So I just want to say, I'll be back in 5 weeks. And if I can, I'll tune in from South Africa and see how you guys are doing. And I want to thank you all of you, for what I've learned while I've been part of this group. It's amazing. Thank you very much.
Jerry, we are grateful, and I just really feel like you're so meant to be here all this time and today, and time and space seems to separate us and keep us apart.
Yeah.
But there's a level at which we're always one mind and united together.
Thank you. I think that's true.
Yeah, it is. Well, this is quite a time together we have. Thank you all. We have 2 more paragraphs and then we're going to wrap it up. David?
Into this hopeless situation, God sends his teachers. They bring the light of hope from God himself. There is a way in which escape is possible. It can be learned and taught, but it requires patience and abundant willingness. Given that, the lesson's manifest simplicity stands out like an intense white light against a black horizon, for such it is. If anger comes from an interpretation and not a fact, it is never justified. Once this is even dimly grasped, the way is open. Now it is possible to take the next step. The interpretation can be changed at last. Magic thoughts need not lead to condemnation, for they do not really have the power to give rise to guilt. And so they can be overlooked and thus forgotten in the truest sense.
Mm-hmm. So we went through all that, call it the red letter paragraphs there, this hopeless, dour view of kill or be killed, death is inevitable, that into that situation, we are now called to the light. It's a way of escaping the clutches of this ancient prison of guilt and despair. And the good news is it can be learned. You can teach and learn the way out. What does it take on your part? Patience with yourself, daily practice, abundant willingness and the workbook lessons, I think, are the menu for that practice. Patience, willingness, daily practice, lessons that manifest themselves simply, because there really is ultimately, when all the complexity of the ego is unwound, this is very simple. It's a change in interpretations from the one where you relied on the ones you learned, the interpretation you learned in the past, into the one that the Holy Spirit is teaching here. It's an overlooking. It's not that you forget necessarily in the short run. You don't forget the old interpretation. You just choose to overlook it and not act upon it. And thus it's forgotten in the truest sense. Cheryl?
I really love this because it's all about the interpretation, the old narrative. And anything that, you know, I'm angry at or disappointed or feel gypped is just an interpretation. I also think that we all, these groups and, you know, others like it, part of why they're amazing besides the content is that we've all bottomed in that place of killed or be killed. We've all experienced that. And that's a rough bottom, but you got to get to that bottom. People don't, you know, do all this work, honestly, openly, and, you know, and the extreme willingness necessary, you know, off the wings of glory. So, yeah, I just, I can be honest, open, but the willing, I have a tendency to be lazy. Whatever, I hang in there. I could do better, and that pisses me off. But then again, there's that, you know, ego beating me up, you know, and I believe things happen in God's time. Mine has been slow. Anyway, I just love this, the interpretation. And I love that you said we don't have to forget the interpretation, because years ago I used to, you know, say in jest, I wish I could have a lobotomy, just like cut it out of me, you know. But you got to go through it. It still exists. It's where you focus, you know, but it still exists. I wish it didn't. Those demons, like Richie said, the shadows, I really wish it didn't. Anyway, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Heather?
Thank you, Cheryl. I love this line, given that the lessons manifest simplicity stands out like an intense white light against a black horizon. It's like when Susie was telling her story about her daughter, that's exactly what that was happening. It was like the simplicity of the white light of the experience stood out against the black background. And it's like every time there's a miracle that we experience ourselves or watch or manifest in somebody else, that's exactly what it looks like. We're watching the white light against a black background. And so I love the idea of going out into my day. And when I have those miracles happen, that's what's happening. And that's the focus of the day. That's the best part of my day, is I see that white light now against the background of the entire day. And it's for that. That's the best part of my day.
Thank you. Heidi?
Thanks for sharing that, Heather. I feel like that's exactly where I'm at. I have the white light that it's just not allowing any darkness in. And it's so beautiful when we can get to that point. And I'm so grateful that I'm able to see that. And I appreciate you pointing that out. And that's it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Before we go on the last paragraph, thank you, Heidi. I just wanted to take a moment to be grateful for this experience we've had together as a group today. I know everyone's felt it. You can feel it, you can detect it. This is a healing journey that we're holding each other's hands, walking on this journey of healing. And that's a gift. And so, and you're a part of that gift. Thank you. Namaste. I honor the divinity within you. We had one more paragraph we're going to read together. David?
Madness, but seems terrible. In truth, it has no power to make anything. Like the magic which becomes its servant, it neither attacks nor protects. To see it and to recognize its thought system is to look on nothing. Can nothing give rise to anger? Hardly so. Remember then, teacher of God, that anger recognizes a reality that is not there. Yet is the anger certain witness that you do believe in it as fact. Now is escape impossible until you see you have responded to your own interpretation, which you have projected on an outside world. Let this grim sword be taken from you now. There is no death. This sword does not exist. The fear of God is causeless, but his love is cause of everything beyond all fear, and thus forever real and always true.
Wow, it happened again. The very thing that we were talking about is addressed right here. And I know in Cheryl's sharing, she mentioned anger more than once today. And there's this shift that the Course in Miracles bid us to do. And it's shifting from a belief that my anger is firmly rooted in a reality. It's a belief that it's a fact. I'm angry because of the facts that I have interpreted there. And we all know how it feels to be so wrapped up in your own belief about the facts, and then to have a flood of overwhelming emotions that come with that. And it's because all which can be traced back to the interpretation that we're using about our situation. And into that there, the Course offers a simple shift into a new interpretive system to see it and to recognize that this thought system is to look on nothing. And then with nothing as its source, then it cannot have effects on me because the cause is nothingness. And what is the benefit of that shift? To let this grim sword be taken from you now and realize that life is not invested in our interpretations and our belief systems in that madness, that life is invested on a plane of reality that is within us, that is eternal and can never die. It's the cause of everything. It's forever real and always true. And that shift, you could say, to shift from the madness into that belief that the cause of God's love is the cause of everything, to make that shift is a miracle indeed. Richie, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was ready to drop it because you said what I was about to say. Everything is I guess the word emanation, if that's right, of God's love. And I've got to be mindful, well, probably mindless, actually, of that, and just take it without any explanation, without any projection. I really, I'd really like to go on beyond the thinking process. And if I could keep this and stay in that zone and not let my ego try to control and take over, I'm really cool. And all my prayers and answers, all my prayers have been answered. I was saying this in front of a group because some of the people know me. I see them quite often. I feel safe saying that here under this flag of A Course in Miracles. So I can't figure a way out. There's no exit. I think in Italian, in Spanish, it's un callejón sin salida. That's a passageway with no exit. So I got mine today. And that sounds selfish. I feel a heck of a lot better now than I did before this meeting started at 11 a.m. I just want to say thank you.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Richie. Last thoughts, last call. That's as far as we're going to go with the reading for today. Susie?
I just wanted to say that this class was so amazing for me because, you know, it just, even though we learn this stuff, you know, and we do it over and over and over again, it just reiterated today, you know, how not true my story has been, you know, that it's just not true. And it's just so, there's such a level of freedom in that and peace that everything I thought was true is just not true. It was just, like you said, my interpretation, the images I made. And it's just wonderful to be truly reminded of that and realize that again and again, over and over and over again, which just helps me to heal more and more. And I love what you said. The thought might come. I don't have to give it much attention, period. So I don't have to beat myself up because the thought comes. Just don't have to attend to it like I used to. So I just want to thank everybody too for, this is just an amazing group.
Yeah, well, thank you, Susie and Richie. Feels like a new year here. We're off to very powerful beginnings here. We're going to continue with the Manual for Teachers on Sunday and Monday. And then also next weekend as well. And then we'll shift into the textbook after that. David, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to say that I don't know what it was about this morning's class, but it was most magical in a Course in Miracles miraculous way, if that's understandable.
Yeah, for sure. Very miraculous. And what I love about it is how we were all part of it. We unexpectedly, in some ways, because you can't anticipate these things, we co-created this together. So what a marvelous thing. Let's do it again. And look forward to that whenever that time happens again. Jerry, have safe travels. You're with us even at, no matter where you are, you're a part of what we share together. Thank you, brother.
Bring back pictures of South Africa.
Thank
I
you.
will.
I want to see the daisies in Cape Town.
That's where I'm going to be.
All right, there you got. Thank you all.
Thank
Have a
you.
Great
you.
day.
Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste,
No.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Love you all.
Love
Peace
you.
and love.
Tomorrow.
Peace and love.
Tomorrow. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Simon.